Meagan Fettes is known as the Joy Coach. She uses yogic teachings to help people get reconnected from their mind, body, and realign their spirit. Yeah. So
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about body image after massive weight loss. So most of my following have had weight loss surgery, but some people are just trying to lose some extra pounds. But regarding the massive weight loss, we see that a lot after weight loss surgery, hopefully if they've been successful. Tell us, just recap for us again, what is body image, body dysmorphia, in your definition?
Yeah. So my definition of body image is basically how we see ourselves. Usually it's created from past-based experience. So
Mm,
how we've seen ourselves in the past, depending on how we've disconnected from previous traumas or previous experiences and created that disconnect from the mind and the body.
So the disconnection between the mind and body, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so it's a natural way that we psychologically deal with traumas. But basically,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is when we experience any kind of traumas, whether it be emotional pain or physical pain, our mind will actually disconnect from the sensations within our physical body so that we're able
Mm-hmm.
to experience less pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're never ever separate, the two, but just how we experience our body with our mind, depending on that
Mm,
pain, is what creates that disconnect.
mm. So it's a pattern that we've kind of learned, right?
Yes. It's a
Okay,
coping mechanism.
a coping mechanism. And what's the problem with having a coping mechanism? Isn't a coping mechanism a good thing?
It can be in its time, but as human beings, we evolve and we grow. And
Mm-hmm.
what often happens is we get stuck in a routine or a pattern with a coping mechanism that no longer serves us.
So the coping mechanism no longer serves us. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so let's say let's take two different patients, okay? So not everyone's born obese. But let's take the first patient who was a chubby kid, always on a diet, starting from a very young age, and they grew up as an overweight adult. Let's talk about their body image after they've had weight loss surgery, and let's say they've lost 150 pounds.
Mm,
How
totally.
can you, yeah, versus the patient who was thin most of their life and maybe they started putting on weight after kids into their 30s and 40s. That's two very different patients, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Definitely. And the process of developing those new body images, like their true body image after weight loss, will be totally
Mm,
different because of their
right,
past based experiences.
right. So let's take the first scenario where the person grew up obese their whole life and now they've lost 150 pounds. How might their body image shift or change?
Mm-hmm. So that individual, I would say, would have a more challenging time developing
Mm,
their new body image because how they've seen themselves the majority of their lives has
mm,
been in that old way.
mm,
So it's, and we'll kind of talk about this throughout today, but there's a grieving process that has to happen in order
mm,
to let go of that old image and that old person
mm,
in order for them to move forward. And so because they didn't know really anything different,
mm,
that grieving process takes a little bit more time because they don't know themselves as anything other than
mm.
that obese person that they see themselves as they were in their past.
So, what might be one or two examples of a coping mechanism that they developed that no longer serves them?
Mm-hmm. So one of which is like the eating, right? Like we'll eat in order to stuff our emotions.
Self-soothing.
Yes,
Hmm.
totally. Or it could be even like self-punishment in some way. So I've seen it a lot where people will tell themselves that they won't buy new clothes or they won't take care of themselves until they
Hmm.
reach a certain point.
Hmm.
And in some ways, they feel like that's a coping mechanism because it supports them trying to move forward to that goal, but it's actually creating a self-punishment, telling
Hmm.
themselves that they're not worthy, not good enough
Hmm.
to to have that care.
Hmm. So it could show up in food. Now, after they lose massive weight, could they replace it with with a less than ideal coping mechanism too?
Absolutely. I joke all the time in yoga that there's such thing as having too many carrots. And so sometimes it can be going, like, we go often from one extreme to the other as human beings.
Okay.
And we need that in order to find our center. We don't necessarily know what our balance or our harmony is until we do the two extremes. And so I've seen it where people go from not having any activity in their lives to being overly active.
For example, right?
Yeah. So there could be that coping mechanism of where the fear comes up of not wanting to go back into those old patterns, not wanting to have that same fallback. And instead of finding a routine or a fitness program that works for them, going completely to the opposite.
So let's take the other patient who grew up pretty thin and fit, but then gained weight later in life and like significant amount of weight, and she loses 150 pounds. What's her body image journey like, do you think?
So this body image will still be challenging, but they'll be able to move through that grieving process a little bit faster because they do have a remembrance within their body and their mind of being thin. So it's not like they have to create a brand new body image. They just have to allow themselves to see them as where they are currently.
Because I get that a lot where people say, well, I've lost 150 pounds, but I still see the fat person.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of that's because we have to remember when we go through these big transformations, there is a healing process that needs to take place as well, because there is a lot of things that we're letting go of. Not just the weight. I mean, there's mindset, there's ways of being, there's relationships that may not be supportive anymore. Like, it's a big transformation in life. So we have to remember that that is going to take place and allow that for that space, that mental and emotional piece within the weight loss journey.
Now, we'll tackle the obvious issue, that of being loose-skinned, because after massive weight loss, a lot of patients have a lot of loose skin, whether on their belly, their arms, their neck. A lot of times people say that they look older, or make fun of them for looking older. What do we do about that?
Yeah, totally. So, and I love that you asked that, because I was actually sitting today with some other work that I've been working on, and it just came up so perfectly. But one thing that we need to remember too is, so like attracts like. It's an old law that we have heard of, universal law. And when we want to create change, we have to embrace the opposite.
Right.
So, and it's really that simple. So when it comes to like that extra loose skin, the like attracts like is we're going to focus on the judgment, the negative, everything that we don't like. And instead, as challenging as it does seem, because when we look at ourselves, we're going to see all of those things that we don't like with that extra skin. But you have to embrace the opposite and really focus on embracing the wins. Like, so what does that loose skin really mean?
It means you were dedicated to your journey.
Yes, totally. And so instead of looking at, oh, I don't like this, recognizing it as, okay, this is what is provided for me. I was dedicated to my journey. I lost all this weight. I chose to support myself, whatever that might be.
So that's interesting. So you have to embrace the opposite, huh? Now, what if the weight loss, massive weight loss, has affected your personal relationship, either one way or the other, right? Usually it brings out the flaws. So if your husband was jealous before, he's going to be more jealous. If your husband was ignored you, he's going to ignore you more. That's what I have found.
Yeah, almost like the amplification aspect, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing to remember, like, so we are connected beings, especially in our relationships. And so when we go through massive changes, the partner is also going through a massive shift themselves. And often there's a little bit of resentment that comes in because it's not their choice of transformation. It was almost forced upon them.
Right, right.
So we have to remember that piece, that
Mm,
they're going through their own journey as well.
that's
And
awesome.
it's not an easy thing, like, to remember, right? Because when we go through these massive changes, we usually do it because we get to that point of being ready. We're ready to do
Mm,
it. We're sick of how we experienced life beforehand, and we jump on it. But we forget that that
mm,
other person may not have felt that same way.
mm-hmm,
So just having that compassion and that understanding for them,
mm-hmm,
but also standing in your truth. So being able to speak your truth with love and
mm-hmm,
compassion versus the fight and the
mm.
combat.
Speak your truth. So we're going to continue talking about this, but I have a question. We're working on an online course together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. It's going to deal with body image and how you get over your body image issues. But is your course going to also address relationships, like from the partner's viewpoint, like stuff you just said
Mm-hmm.
there?
Yeah, totally. So,
Mm-hmm.
because it is really important, like, we're beings that need relationships, we need
Mm-hmm.
connections. And so it
Right.
is part of our well being and our vitality to have supportive relationships and also know how to set the boundaries and create that support for ourselves in
Mm-hmm.
that loving and compassionate way.
Mm-hmm. So what's an example of something that somebody could do if they're struggling with their relationship over the body image issue? How could they
Mm-hmm.
get back on the same page?
Yeah. And the biggest thing, and I know a lot of people resist vulnerability, and
Mm-hmm.
because it's scary, right? We
Mm-hmm.
step out of our ability to control the reaction of other people, and we're just burying ourselves fully and completely. And then
Mm-hmm.
we also have no control over the reaction of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But the first step is to be vulnerable. Be vulnerable about how you're feeling, your experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to ask the other person what their experience is
Mm-hmm.
instead of just assuming that they're being a dink or a jerk or jealous.
What's a dink? Is that a Canadian thing?
It must be. Don't you guys use it down in the States?
We don't use dink.
Oh.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. So, Dr. V sums it up like this. My phrase is boys are bad. You know, and by that I mean I don't want my patients who are mostly female to get into new relationships because they're really rediscovering themselves. Would you agree with
Mhm.
that?
Yes, absolutely. And I see that often where people just assume it's the relationship
Mm-hmm.
and that they will go into a new relationship hoping that it'll be different.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that it's the relationship with yourself that's
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate creator of all the other relationships that you have.
I
So,
agree. I mean, it's the foundation of everything, right?
yes.
How do you talk to yourself is really how you talk to other people too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, you teach people how to treat you based on
Oh,
how you
I
treat yourself.
absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that. So if you don't value yourself, you can expect a new partner to suddenly start valuing you. Or another way to say it is like you won't attract a partner who values you,
Yes. Right.
right?
Yeah. In yogic
Because
philo- oh,
go ahead.
so in yogic philosophy, we have this belief that everything that you experience in your life is a projection of your internal experience.
Hmm.
And the idea behind that is that we all have emotions, we all have things that are evolving and helping us grow as human
Hmm.
beings. And then we project it outward so that we can experience the lesson.
Hmm.
And it's not meant to break us, but it's meant to allow us to have that awareness as to, like, how are we showing up for ourselves? How are we
Hmm.
showing up in this moment? And so every relationship is just that. It's a reflection of your personal experience,
Hmm.
not the relationship itself.
Hmm. So so it's an extension of your relationship with yourself, then basically.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm. So if I treat myself kindly, I guess I'm more likely to treat my partner kindly.
Hmm.
Would you agree?
Yes. Now, the other funny thing, though, that goes into this is the balance or harmony,
Hmm.
right? Because
Okay.
we
What do you
can
mean?
So if we treat ourselves kindly, we will definitely treat others kindly, and we'll often get that reciprocated. However, if we're not allowing ourselves to have the boundaries of, and I don't want to say pushing ourselves, but like allowing ourselves that space to grow and yeah, having a little bit more of an expectation on ourselves at some times. Because otherwise, if we're always kind on ourselves, then we're always going to be kind to others, almost sometimes to a fault. So we need to learn to have those boundaries. Like, when do we need to give all of that, and when do we need to say, you know what, at this time, this is what I have to give.
And I find how much you're willing to give, how vulnerable you want to be. That's really tied into body image too, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Like if you have a big disconnection between how you see yourself, you're either gonna act on the extremes, like you were talking about earlier. You'll either be like hypersexual because you just want that sort of attention, or you'll be really cold because you don't want any attention. It's always extreme.
Yeah, and we have to find that balance, right? And really what it comes back down into is there's I use the word balance a lot, and there's no such thing as having perfect balance all the time. But in the moment, right? So getting present, landing in our body. I know I talk about breath work a lot, but it is so important to land in our breath. And then we can tap into like, what is it that we need right now?
That's a good segue. Actually, let's go through that. This is a good way to, so let's start healing our body image. Like if there's a disparity between how we really look and how we think we look, like how do we start fixing the body image? Let's go through it. Yeah, let's do an exercise.
Yeah. So one of the biggest keys is always like slow down. Like the world will always set a pace for you, but you don't have to move at that pace. So one of the most simple ways is, even in your chair or wherever you're sitting, is if you can, take your shoes off. I find it's way more effective to not be wearing shoes.
My shoes are off all the time.
Mine too. I get bugged about that constantly. And then just begin to rub your feet or stomp your feet so that you begin to create sensation in the soles of your feet.
Interesting. So you start by stomping your feet. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm doing that right now.
Yeah. So then once you feel like you've done it for a little bit.
I want to invite the viewers to follow along with us. So, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so then once you've got some sensation in your feet, just stop. Close your eyes. And bring your awareness down to the soles of your feet. And you may notice that the sensation doesn't stay just at the soles of your feet. It may begin to radiate up the tops of your feet, maybe into your ankles. And just notice how that feels.
And should I be breathing a certain way when you do this?
Just more intentional breathing. So aware of how your breath is moving in and out through your body.
Okay. So deeper breaths, would you say? Or
Yeah. Okay. In and out through your nose.
Okay.
And then bring your hands onto your thighs. We'll just do and you can tap your thighs. Okay. You can tap around the tops of your thighs, the sides.
Okay. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm tapping underneath my desk here. Hope no one walks in.
All right, now stop, and then again close your eyes. Okay, notice your breath. And begin to notice the sensation once again. And this time, notice if you can feel the sensation traveling and melding from the soles of your feet up to your thighs. Okay. And then begin to open your eyes. We'll bring it now into your stomach. So you can begin to gently tap your stomach. Okay.
Yeah, this is the troublesome spot for a lot of people.
Yes. And when you're doing this, one of my favorite ways, and in fact, this is how I wake up every morning, is I wake up and I do this moving meditation. And I practice gratitude for my body while I'm doing it. So while you're tapping your stomach, bring in gratitude for the way it digests your food.
And
for
will you'll be teaching this in your course?
Yes.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, because this is one of my more foundational tools that I love to teach.
Really?
To bring the mind and the body together.
Just tapping.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then close your eyes.
But when I tap my belly, I have a middle-aged belly, right? I'm 46. A lot of people don't know I'm 46, but like I don't want to tap my belly. I don't like the jiggle.
Totally. And that will come up. That will totally come up. And so it's retraining the mind. And just know, like, one of the biggest keys I want to leave people with is when your mind goes to that space, you're not failing. You're not doing it wrong. It's just giving you an awareness as to like what's coming up for you. The areas that you really need to work on and love more than judge.
Interesting. So if I don't like touching it, that means I need to love it more?
Oh yeah. Like touch it, and then it's retraining that mind, your mind, to finding all the things that it's done for you, everything that it's created for you, all the opportunities that it offers for you.
Like digesting my food.
Yeah.
Right.
Holding your body upright.
Yeah, my core muscles, eliminating my waist.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So what about like a lot of patients have loose skin underneath their arms from massive weight loss, or they call it the turkey neck. A lot of loose skin here. Are you slapping that too, or what are we doing there?
Yeah. So with the arms, yes. Okay. So you'd bring your hand and you'd slap around, and again, bring in that gratitude for like. Again, it's really easy for us to see what we don't like, but bringing in that gratitude for what that shows. And say it out loud. Now, this might sound really woo-woo, but in the yogic world, we have this belief system that your body can hear your voice.
I believe that.
So when you speak out loud, it actually gives you a new way of reconnecting to your body as well.
Interesting. So what would you say to your flappy arm skin?
Well, thank you for showing me how much weight I've lost. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have more movement, more mobility.
Letting me hold my kids or hug my loved one.
Yes, totally. And that one, like even with the stomach, like with women that have had kids, that's the biggest thing I always share too. Is like, that was a house for your child. That helped you bring that child into this world. And so often that's enough to help shift that way of thinking.
I love that. I think we could use that for sure for my patients.
Yeah. And we'll often have a lot more gratitude for things when it comes to our kids or our loved ones than we will ourselves, right? Because we're naturally beings of service. So sometimes we may not be able to bring it into ourselves right away. But if we can connect it to what it's been able to do for other people, that might be that lead or that segue to creating that.
Well, that's super awesome. Meagan Fettes, I want to thank you for your time and your expertise and your warm, awesome smile. I'm so excited for these Luncheon Learns. I think you're such a benefit and use to the community. So if you're enjoying these Luncheon Learns, just put a 1 in the comment section. Hit the heart button there. Give Meagan some hearts there, because we go back and we like to comment and follow up on your comments. Just real quick, your online course is going to be, we've been working on it. It's going to be on body image. What can the viewers look forward to regarding this online course?
Yeah, so they're really like simple, effective tools that you can implement that are going to connect your mind and your body and allow yourself to feel really good in the skin that you're in versus feeling like you're just existing in it. So it's giving you the opportunity to take charge of your body image and have the confidence you deserve. That's
amazing. So we'll get that out here soon. Put yes if you'd be interested in signing up for this online course. Just yes, and we'll go back and look at all the yeses, and we'll give you the link when it's up and available. We're hoping to have that up here in a couple of weeks, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Totally. We'll have it up.
That'd be cool. Yeah, we'll work in on it. So I've enjoyed it. Meagan, thank you very much. I'll see you next week for another amazing Lunch and Learn, okay?
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Dr.
Okay.
V.
Well, how cool was that? Wasn't that amazing? Meagan Fettes taking time out from her busy schedule to kind of give us these amazing nuggets. So I want to recap a couple of things here. So just remember that your mind and your body are one unit. They're not separate. And a lot of our problems that we have in this world is when we separate our mind and body. We overthink things. We ignored ourselves, which is another way of saying you ignored your body, right? And that ends up like that dissociation starts to change and affect how we see ourselves. So that's our body image issues. And she said that it was basically a coping mechanism that no longer serves us, right? So it's a coping mechanism that no longer serves us. Super powerful tip there. And so we want to replace these old coping mechanisms with better ones, right? And so what do we want to do? We want to start acknowledging our body. So we went through a great exercise about how you start noticing your body again. So she started with stomping her feet, and then close your eyes and do the breathing, and then we went to the slapping your thighs, slapping your belly, slapping your arms, giving gratitude for that part of your body. Like you slap your tummy and you have a bunch of loose skin, but you still sit there and say, thank you for digesting my food, thank you for holding up my posture, and if you're a mom, thank you for housing my baby, right? And the arms, you have these bat wings underneath the arms, and you slap it and you give it gratitude. You say things like, thank you for reminding me I stuck to my journey, I didn't give it up. My arms, thank you for carrying my groceries and hugging my baby and carrying my babies and hugging my spouse and doing all the things that these arms and these muscles can do now. I think that's super amazing tips. We're so excited about the online course that we are putting together. Just put yes if you're interested in doing the online course when it's available. I'm honestly, she says 2 weeks, but I'm thinking we're closer to 3 to 4 weeks away. So it'll be very affordable. But yes, in the comment section, if you'd be interested, we'll come back and remind you when it's available. Also, if you haven't gotten your tickets for velocity2020.com, I want to invite you to go ahead and get your tickets. They are as cheap as they're going to be. I went to this mastermind this weekend, and I way need to increase my prices a lot faster because I'm going to lose a ton of money if I don't increase my prices. So Velocity 2020, this is the cheapest you're going to get it right now. So go ahead and click on that. Thank you guys so much for all your support. These lunch and learns every week, I have to convince these guys to take time out of their schedule. She was obviously in her yoga outfit, so she was teaching a class, and she's probably digging into her lunch break to do these for you. All my speakers do, So it means a lot to me that you guys share this. It means a lot that you vote with your credit cards, as I like to say. And it means a lot that you guys are willing to part with your hard-earned money. And so what we want to do is give you a lot more value. So hopefully you're getting a lot of value from these Lunch and Learns. Remember, they'll always be put up onto my YouTube channel also. And we'll be back next week for another great Lunch and Learn. Thank you for the 63% of y'all who would be interested in, for sure, for the online course. That's amazing. All right, love you guys very much. See you next time. This is Dr. V out.